Think and Grow Rich. Introduction. Imagine someone could give you just one piece of advice, one idea powerful enough to change your financial future. What would it be? Work harder, save every penny, start investing, launch your own business. Most people believe success begins with the right actions. But what if it starts even earlier, with the way you think? That is the central idea behind one of the most influential personal success books ever written. Think and Grow Rich. First published in 1937, nearly a century ago, the book has been read by millions of people around the world. Its readers have included entrepreneurs, business leaders, athletes, and countless individuals looking to improve their lives. But that raises an important question. Why does a book written almost 100 years ago remain one of the world's most popular books on success? Do Napoleon Hill's principles still hold true today? Or is the book simply a timeless classic whose ideas no longer fit the modern world? In this video, we won't accept the author's claims without question. Instead, we'll explore the book chapter by chapter. I'll explain each key idea in clear, simple language, show how it applies to modern life, share real-world examples, and end every chapter with a short, practical exercise. That way, you won't just understand the book. You'll have the opportunity to put its ideas into practice right away. We'll also take an objective approach. If a principle has truly stood the test of time, we'll say so. And if certain ideas seem outdated or controversial by today's standards, we'll examine those honestly as well. By the end of the video, we'll answer one important question. Is Think and Grow Rich still worth reading cover to cover today? Or is understanding its core ideas enough to gain its greatest value? If you're interested in books that can genuinely change the way you think, consider subscribing to the channel. Here, we'll break down the best books on psychology, self-improvement, business, habits, and personal effectiveness, separating timeless insights from empty promises. Now, let's begin. Open the first chapter with me and discover where Napoleon Hill believes the journey to success truly starts. Chapter 1. Desire. The starting point of every achievement. Chapter. Introduction. Let's begin with a small thought experiment. Imagine two people. The first person says the same sentence every year. One day I will change my life. They dream about starting their own business, earning more money, traveling the world, or living in a beautiful home by the sea. But years pass, and the only thing that changes is the calendar. Now imagine the second person. They are not rich yet. They don't have special connections or extraordinary talent. But one day, they make a decision. They write down a specific goal, set a deadline, and start taking at least one small step every day. Who do you think has a better chance of changing their life? This is where the book Think and Grow Rich begins. According to Napoleon Hill, every great achievement starts with desire, but not an ordinary desire, not a simple wish, like, it would be nice to have this. He is talking about a powerful inner desire that becomes impossible to ignore. This kind of desire becomes the starting point for every action that follows. What the author wanted to explain. At first, this idea may seem obvious. Of course, if you want to achieve something, you need to want it. But Hill gives the word desire a much deeper meaning. He believes that many people fail to achieve their goals not because they lack ability. They fail because they lack clarity. They want a better job. They want more money. They want happier relationships. They want better health. But their desires remain unclear and undefined. And unclear desires rarely become real results. According to Hill, desire becomes a true driving force only when it takes the form of a specific goal. Not, I want to earn more money, but within 3 years, I want to reach a specific level of income. Not, I want to lose weight, But by a certain date, I want to feel healthier, stronger, and more confident. When a goal becomes clear, the brain begins searching for ways to achieve it. A person starts noticing opportunities they may not have seen before. This is why Hill considers desire the first step towards success. A modern example. Imagine a young woman who dreams of opening her own beauty studio. Every time she meets her friends, she says, "One day I will definitely start my own business." 1 year passes, then another. Nothing changes. But one evening, she sits down with a cup of tea, opens a notebook, and writes, "Within 2 years, I will have my own beauty studio." Then she creates a plan, research the market, calculate the expenses, save a specific amount of money every month, take a business management course, find a suitable location. The next day, she makes her first call to a potential landlord. A week later, she enrolls in a course. A month later, she starts looking for her first clients. What changed? Not her talent, not her luck. One thing changed. Her dream became a goal. And this is exactly what Napoleon Hill is talking about. Our perspective. In my opinion, this is where the book becomes especially interesting, because this idea is partially supported by modern psychology. When people create specific goals, they usually make better decisions. They understand what is truly important and what they may need to give up today in order to achieve something bigger tomorrow. However, there is one point where I would add a different perspective. After reading books like this, people sometimes get the impression that if they simply want something strongly enough, the universe will automatically help them achieve it. But real life is more complicated. Desire without action remains only a dream. However, desire combined with consistent daily actions can truly transform a person's life. So if we combine Napoleon Hill's ideas with a modern understanding, we get a more accurate conclusion. Strong desire does not replace action. It gives action meaning and helps people continue moving forward when things become difficult. Interesting fact. It is interesting that Napoleon Hill claimed the idea for this book came from a conversation with American industrialist Andrew Carnegie, one of the wealthiest people of his time. According to Hill, Carnegie encouraged him to study successful people and discover the common principles behind their achievements. However, historians still debate how accurately Hill described these events. Some details of his biography remain uncertain, and some of his claims have not been proven with documents. But this does not change the main point. The value of a book is not determined by the story behind its creation. It is determined by whether its ideas help people become more disciplined, focused, and persistent. That is why we will evaluate this book based on its ideas and lessons, not the myths surrounding its author. Practice. Now, let's do a small exercise. Take a piece of paper or open the notes on your phone. Answer 4 simple questions. First, what is one goal you truly want to achieve within the next 2 or 3 years? Second, why is this goal important to you? Third, what are you willing to do for this goal during this week? And the final question, what is the smallest step you can take today? Not next month, not next Monday, today. Let this step take only 5 minutes. Sometimes these small actions become the beginning of the biggest changes. Main takeaway. Napoleon Hill begins his book with a simple but powerful idea. Every great achievement begins with desire, but it's not a temporary wish. It begins with a desire that is so clear and strong that it gradually becomes a plan, then becomes action, and eventually becomes a result. And perhaps the most important question after this chapter is, do you have a goal today that you are willing to work toward every single day? If the answer is yes, then you already have what Hill believes is the starting point of every success. Now, let's explore the next principle that the author considers essential for achieving great goals. Chapter 2, Faith, How Beliefs Influence Our Actions. Chapter. Introduction. Imagine 2 people. They're around the same age. They have similar education, experience, and opportunities, but one of them constantly tells himself, "I will never succeed." The other thinks differently. "I don't know if I will succeed the first time, but I will try." Years pass. The first person never starts a new business, changes careers, or takes important steps toward a different life. The second person also faces failures. They make mistakes and experience setbacks, but they keep moving forward. Why? Is it only about luck? Or is there something deeper that quietly influences our decisions every day? This is what Napoleon Hill explores in the second chapter of Think and Grow Rich. According to Hill, between desire and achievement, there is another important element: faith. Not religious faith, but a deep belief that your goal is possible. What the author wanted to explain. In the first chapter, Hill introduced the power of desire. Now he takes the next step. He explains that desire alone is not enough. A person may dream about a better career, financial freedom, or a happier life, but if deep inside they believe, "This is not for someone like me," they will probably never take action. Hill believes our beliefs gradually become our actions. If someone constantly repeats, "I'm not smart enough, I always fail, other people succeed, but I don't," eventually they begin to act as if these thoughts are facts. On the other hand, when a person believes they can learn, improve, and overcome difficulties, they are more likely to take the first step. For Hill, faith is not magic. It is the inner strength that helps a person continue after failure. A modern example: imagine someone who wants to change careers and become a programmer. Every time they think about starting, they tell themselves, "Maybe it's too late for me." Because of this belief, they never even begin. Now imagine another person with the same doubts, but they think, "I don't know how difficult it will be, but I can learn step by step." They start studying, gain new skills, and eventually get their first opportunity. The difference is not talent or luck. The difference is that one person stopped because of fear, while the other gave themselves a chance. This is the kind of belief Napoleon Hill describes. A modern perspective. Almost a century later, this idea is still relevant. Modern psychology shows that our beliefs influence our actions. When people expect failure, they often avoid challenges and give up faster. However, belief alone is not enough. Positive thinking cannot replace learning, practice, and consistent effort. A more realistic idea is, faith does not guarantee success. It gives people the confidence to take action and continue when difficulties appear. Interesting fact. Today, psychology studies ideas similar to Hill's concept, such as the self-fulfilling prophecy, when our expectations influence our behavior and results. But thoughts do not magically change reality. They influence our choices, persistence, and willingness to act, and actions are what create real change. Our perspective. Many people misunderstand Hill's message. They think he means just believe in success and everything will happen. But Hill is talking about a mindset that helps people keep moving forward. Real confidence is not pretending to be an expert. It is saying, "I am still learning, but with consistent effort, I can improve." This kind of belief keeps people connected to reality while helping them grow. Practice. Think about one goal you want to achieve. Ask yourself, what thought usually stops me from taking action? Maybe, "I won't succeed. It's too late. I'm not talented enough." Now, replace it with a more helpful thought. "I cannot do it yet, but I can learn." Changing your inner dialogue can become the first step toward changing your actions. Main takeaway. Napoleon Hill's message is simple. Our beliefs influence our actions. When people believe they cannot succeed, they often stop before they begin. But when they allow themselves to learn, make mistakes, and continue, their chances of success become much higher. The question is, which thought is helping you move forward, and which thought is holding you back? Now let's move to the next chapter, where Napoleon Hill explains the power of self-suggestion. Chapter 3. Autosuggestion. The conversation we have with ourselves every day. Chapter. Introduction. How many times today have you talked to yourself? Probably more than you realize. This conversation happens quietly in our minds. Before a difficult task, we may think, I hope I don't fail. After a mistake, I knew I couldn't do it. But sometimes we tell ourselves, I can learn, I can improve, I can try again. We rarely notice this inner dialogue, but Napoleon Hill believes that the thoughts we repeat every day can influence our actions and shape our results. He calls this process autosuggestion. What the author wanted to explain. After discussing desire and faith, Hill introduces another important idea. The words we repeat to ourselves can become beliefs. If a person constantly thinks, I am not good enough, I will never succeed, these thoughts can affect their confidence and decisions. But if someone reminds themselves of their goals and their ability to improve, it becomes easier to continue during difficult moments. However, autosuggestion is not about simply repeating positive phrases. It is about creating an inner dialogue that supports action. A modern example. Imagine someone who decides to start exercising. After the first difficult workout, they think, maybe this is not for me. Soon they quit. Now imagine the same person thinking, this is difficult because I am just starting. I don't need to be perfect. I only need to continue. They keep going. A month later, exercise becomes a habit. What changed first? Not their body, their mindset changed first. A modern perspective. Modern psychology also studies the influence of self-talk. The way we explain our successes and failures can affect confidence, motivation, and persistence. However, positive thinking should be realistic. Telling yourself something you do not believe may not help. A stronger approach is, I am still learning. I can improve with practice. Mistakes help me grow. The goal is not to create an illusion. The goal is to build a healthier relationship with yourself. Our perspective. This chapter is often misunderstood. Some people think Hill means that repeating positive words will automatically change their life. But thoughts cannot replace action. The real power of self-suggestion is that it helps people continue when things become difficult. Sometimes the most useful thought is not, everything is easy, but this is challenging, but I can keep moving forward. Practice. For one day, pay attention to your inner dialogue. When you notice thoughts like, I can't do this, it is too difficult, I will fail, write them down. Then replace them with something more realistic. I am learning. I can improve step by step. One mistake does not define me. Small changes in your inner dialogue can create changes in your actions. Main takeaway. The third chapter reminds us, every day we have a conversation with ourselves, and this conversation influences the way we see ourselves and our possibilities. Napoleon Hill suggests using this inner voice as a source of motivation. Modern psychology adds an important detail. Do not create false beliefs. Instead, learn to speak to yourself with honesty, patience, and respect. Because the voice inside your mind can either stop you or help you move forward. Now, let's continue to the next chapter, where Napoleon Hill explains why knowledge alone is not enough for success. Chapter 4. Specialized knowledge. Why information alone does not create success. Chapter Introduction. Let's quickly look back at what we have learned so far. First, Napoleon Hill explained that every achievement begins with a clear desire. Then he showed why faith in yourself helps you take action. After that, we explored the power of our inner dialogue. But now comes an important question. Is desire, belief, and the right mindset enough? You can have a big dream. You can believe in yourself. But if you do not know what steps to take, can you really reach your goal? This is where Hill introduces the next principle, specialized knowledge. What the author wanted to explain. When people hear the word knowledge, they often think about degrees, books, and large amounts of information. But Hill explains that information alone does not create success. A person can read hundreds of books and watch thousands of videos, but still remain in the same place. Why? Because knowledge only becomes valuable when it helps solve a specific problem. A future doctor needs medical knowledge. A person opening a business needs knowledge about customers, finances, and marketing. A photographer needs to understand light, technique, and practice. The key is not knowing everything. The key is knowing what is useful for your goal. A modern example. Imagine two people. The first person is always learning. They buy courses about marketing, investing, psychology, and business. They are constantly collecting information. But years pass, and nothing really changes. Why? Because they learn, but they rarely apply what they know. The second person has one clear goal: opening a small bakery. They learn only what they need: how to calculate costs, how to attract customers, how to manage daily operations. They do not know everything, but they know what helps them move forward. That is the difference between collecting knowledge and using knowledge. A modern perspective. Almost a century later, this idea is even more relevant. Today, information is everywhere. We have unlimited access to books, courses, videos, and experts. But information does not automatically become a skill. You can watch hundreds of videos about swimming, but you learn to swim only when you practice. Knowledge creates value only when it becomes action. Our perspective. This chapter challenges a common mistake. Many people think, I just need one more course, one more book, one more certificate, then I will be ready. But sometimes endless learning is simply a way to avoid taking action. Of course, knowledge matters, but at some point the best way to learn is by doing. One real attempt can teach more than hours of theory. Practice. Think about your main goal right now. Ask yourself 3 questions. 1. What knowledge do I truly need to move forward? 2. What can I learn this week? 3. How can I immediately apply it? Remember, the goal is not only to collect information, the goal is to use it. Main takeaway. Napoleon Hill reminds us of a simple truth. Information alone does not change lives. Knowledge becomes powerful only when it turns into action. So ask yourself, am I learning because I want to grow? Or am I learning because I'm afraid to start? Now let's move to the next chapter, where Napoleon Hill explains how imagination can transform knowledge into new ideas. Chapter 5. Imagination. When new ideas are born. Chapter Introduction. So far, we have learned that success begins with desire, faith, self-talk, and knowledge. But one question remains. How do people create something new? According to Napoleon Hill, knowledge alone is not enough. Progress begins when we use our imagination. What the author wanted to explain, Hill describes imagination as the ability to create new ideas by combining existing knowledge in different ways. Almost everything around us once started as an idea. Successful people are not always those who know the most. Often, they are the ones who can see new possibilities and find better solutions. Modern example. Imagine a small coffee shop owner. They can copy what everyone else does, or they can notice a problem. People are in a hurry in the morning and do not want to wait. A simple idea appears. Let customers order in advance. The idea is not revolutionary, but it solves a real problem. This is how imagination often works, not by creating something from nothing, but by seeing familiar things differently. Modern perspective. Today, information is everywhere. But the ability to connect ideas, ask new questions, and find creative solutions is still valuable. Imagination is not only a natural talent. It can be developed through learning, curiosity, and practice. Practice. Choose one problem from your daily life. Ask yourself, can this be easier? Can this be faster? Is there another way? Write down several ideas without judging them. Sometimes a simple question can become the beginning of something new. Main takeaway. Imagination is the ability to see opportunities where others see ordinary situations. New achievements often begin with one question: what if there is another way? In the next chapter, we will explore why ideas need a clear plan before they can become reality. Chapter 6. Action Plan. Why good ideas stay unrealized. Chapter. Introduction. Imagine an architect who creates a perfect house design. Every detail is planned. The materials are chosen. Everything looks amazing on paper. But years pass and construction never begins. Can someone live in a house that exists only in a drawing? Of course not. According to Napoleon Hill, many dreams are exactly like this. People have goals, ideas and knowledge, but they lack the thing that turns dreams into reality, a plan of action. What the author wanted to explain. In previous chapters, Hill talked about desire, faith, knowledge, and imagination. Now, he explains the next step. An idea has no value unless it becomes action. Many people wait for the perfect moment. More time, more money, more confidence, but perfect conditions rarely come. Hill suggests creating a simple plan, taking the first step, and improving the plan along the way. Success usually comes through adjustment, not perfection. Modern example. Imagine someone who wants to learn English. They buy books, save videos, and collect courses, but every day they say, "I'll start on Monday." Months pass and nothing changes. Now, imagine another person. They also have a busy life, but they practice for just 20 minutes every day. After a year, the difference is clear. Not because one person was more talented, because one person created a system of action. Modern perspective. Today, this idea is even more relevant. Research on habits shows that small, consistent actions often create bigger results than short periods of intense motivation. A plan does not need to be perfect. It needs to be flexible and improved through experience. Our perspective. One of the biggest mistakes people make is waiting until they are fully ready. They keep learning, preparing, and planning. But sometimes, the best way to gain clarity is to start. Action creates progress. Practice. Think about one goal you have been delaying. Ask yourself, what is one small action I can take today that will move me closer to it? It can take only 10 minutes. Send a message, open a document, make a phone call, take the first step today. Main takeaway. A dream without action remains only a dream. Knowledge without practice remains only information. And a plan without action remains only an idea. The question is, what are you postponing because you are waiting for the perfect moment? In the next chapter, we will explore persistence, the quality that helps people continue even when motivation disappears. Chapter 7. Persistence. What to do when motivation disappears. Chapter Introduction. Imagine two people who decide to run their first marathon. At the beginning, both are excited. They buy equipment, create a training plan, and start with energy. But then comes an ordinary rainy day. They're tired after work, and a thought appears, maybe I should skip today. This is the moment when goals are truly tested. Success is not built only on the days when everything feels easy. It is built on the days when continuing feels difficult. This is what Napoleon Hill discusses in the 7th chapter. He believes success often belongs not to the most talented people, but to those who continue longer than others. What the author wanted to explain, Hill believes many people give up too early, not because their goals are impossible, but because they see difficulties as a sign to stop. However, failure is often part of the process. Every person who achieves something meaningful faces mistakes, rejection, and moments of doubt. The difference is not the absence of problems. The difference is the response. A persistence does not mean never feeling uncertain. It means taking the next step despite uncertainty. Modern example. Imagine someone starting a YouTube channel. They create their first video, spend hours editing, and finally publish it. A week later, only a few people watch it. They can think, maybe nobody is interested. Or they can improve, analyze what worked, change the format, improve the quality, keep creating. Many successful projects do not fail because they lack potential. They fail because people stop before results appear. A modern perspective. Today, research in sports, learning, and personal development also shows the importance of consistency. However, persistence does not mean repeating the same thing forever. Sometimes moving forward means changing the strategy while keeping the goal. Adaptation is also part of persistence. Our perspective. This chapter feels especially realistic because everyone experiences moments when they want to quit. We often think successful people are always motivated, but usually they simply continue doing what matters even when motivation is low. Persistence does not require being perfect every day. It only requires not giving up too quickly. Practice. Think about something you started but abandoned, a language, a fitness goal, a personal project. Ask yourself, why did I stop? And what would I do differently if I tried again today? Sometimes the problem was not a lack of ability. Sometimes we simply needed more experience or a better approach. Main takeaway: big goals rarely happen through a straight path. There will be mistakes, doubts, and difficult moments. But the ability to continue, learn, and adjust often matters more than having a perfect beginning. The question is, what goal would you continue pursuing if you knew that difficulties were simply part of the journey? In the next chapter, Napoleon Hill explains why great achievements are rarely created by one person alone and introduces the power of cooperation. Chapter 8. Decision. Why some people act and others keep delaying. Chapter Introduction. Imagine standing at a crossroads. One road feels safe. Everything is familiar. There is little risk, no difficult decisions, and no need to change. The other road is uncertain. There may be mistakes and challenges, but it leads toward the life you actually want. According to Napoleon Hill, many people do not fail because they lack ability or knowledge. They fail because they cannot make a decision. What the author wanted to explain. Every day, we make simple choices, but when it comes to important decisions, many people begin to wait. Should I change my career? Start a business? Learn something new? Move to another place? People often search for the perfect moment and complete certainty, but that moment rarely comes. Sometimes waiting feels like being careful, but in reality, it can become a way to avoid action. Hill believes successful people are often those who can make a clear decision and move forward. A modern perspective. Today, psychology also studies why decisions can be difficult. When people have too many choices, they often become overwhelmed and postpone making a decision. This is sometimes called the paradox of choice. However, being decisive does not mean acting without thinking. A good decision requires enough information, understanding the risks, and then choosing a direction. The goal is not perfect certainty. The goal is progress. Our perspective. One of the most valuable ideas in this chapter is that decisions return a sense of control. When we choose, we stop waiting for life to decide for us. Many successful people made important decisions without knowing exactly what would happen next. They simply accepted uncertainty and took responsibility for their next step. Practice. Think about one decision you have been postponing. Ask yourself, am I really missing information, or am I afraid of making a mistake? Then ask, what is the smallest step I can take today? It does not need to change your whole life. Sometimes a small decision is the beginning of a big transformation. Main takeaway: big changes often begin with a simple decision. Not a perfect decision, not a risk-free decision. Just a decision to stop waiting and start moving. The question is, if fear of making a mistake disappeared today, what choice would you make? In the next chapter, Napoleon Hill explains why decisions become powerful only when they are supported by consistent habits. Chapter 9. The power of cooperation. Why great results are rarely achieved alone. Many stories show success as the journey of one person who changes everything through talent and determination. But in reality, most great achievements are created with the help of others. Behind successful people, there are often teachers, mentors, partners, and colleagues who share knowledge, experience, and ideas. Napoleon Hill calls this principle the mastermind, the power that appears when people combine their abilities and work toward a common goal. Hill believes that no person can achieve major results completely alone. Cooperation helps people find better solutions, avoid mistakes, and see opportunities they might miss by themselves. Many people try to do everything alone because they believe asking for help shows weakness. But in reality, the ability to learn from others is a strength. Today, this idea is even more important. Science, technology, and business are built on teamwork. Modern challenges are too complex for one person to know everything. However, the right people matter. A good team can help you grow, while the wrong environment can slow you down. The goal is not simply to have people around you. The goal is to connect with people who encourage progress and bring new perspectives. Many great ideas are created through conversations. One person asks a question, another sees a new possibility, someone else finds a solution. Sometimes one meaningful conversation can save months of mistakes. Try asking yourself, who has already achieved something I want to achieve? Who could give me useful advice? And who could I help with my own knowledge? Great results are rarely created completely alone. Success often comes from combining personal effort with the experience and support of others. The question is, who can help you grow? And who can you help grow in return? In the next chapter, Napoleon Hill explores the subconscious mind and how our thoughts influence our behavior. Chapter 10. The subconscious mind. How your thoughts shape your decisions. Imagine you decide to buy a red car. Suddenly, you start noticing red cars everywhere. The world has not changed, your attention has. Napoleon Hill uses a similar idea to explain the subconscious mind. He believed that our repeated thoughts and beliefs influence what we notice, how we interpret situations, and the choices we make. Today, psychology explains this a little differently. Our brains receive more information than we can consciously process, so they constantly filter what seems important. When you focus on a goal, your brain begins to notice opportunities related to it. Someone learning English starts hearing English words everywhere. Someone planning a business notices how successful companies operate. The opportunities were always there. What changed was their attention. This does not mean thoughts magically create reality. Thoughts influence decisions, decisions shape actions, and repeated actions create results. That is why mindset matters. Imagine two people facing the same challenge. One thinks, I'll probably fail. The other says, I don't know how yet, but I can learn. Their circumstances are similar, but their actions become very different. Our subconscious can also hold limiting beliefs formed by past experiences. Instead of accepting every thought as truth, ask yourself, is this a fact or just a habit of thinking? This simple question can change the way you respond. A useful exercise is to notice one negative thought you repeat during the day and challenge it with a more balanced perspective. Hill described these ideas using the language of his time. Modern psychology explains them through attention, habits, and learning. But the central message remains the same. What you consistently focus on gradually shapes the person you become. So ask yourself, what story about yourself are you teaching your mind to believe? In the next chapter, Hill explores how emotions can strengthen or weaken our thoughts and actions. Chapter 11. Emotions. The invisible force behind our decisions. Think about a time when you felt truly inspired. Everything seemed easier, and even difficult tasks felt possible. Now remember a day when you were tired or full of doubt. The world was the same, but your experience was completely different. Napoleon Hill believed that thoughts become much more powerful when they are connected with emotion. Today, psychology explains that emotions help the brain decide what is important. They influence our attention, motivation, and the choices we make. Imagine two people learning the same new skill. One thinks, this is too hard, I'll never be good enough. The other says, this is difficult, but every mistake helps me improve. After a year, their results may be very different, not because of talent, but because of their emotional approach. Research shows that emotions also affect memory and learning. We often remember experiences that made us feel something, while ordinary moments quickly fade away. However, emotions are not just about staying positive. Fear, doubt, and frustration are normal. The real question is whether those emotions control your actions. Successful people are not fearless. They simply learn to move forward despite uncertainty. Instead of seeing fear as a reason to stop, they use it as a signal to prepare, learn, and take the next step. Try this simple exercise. Think about an important goal and ask yourself, what emotions appear when I imagine achieving it? Excitement, fear, curiosity. Instead of judging those feelings, simply notice them. Awareness is often the first step toward change. Hill wrote about emotions almost a century ago. Modern psychology explains them through motivation and brain science. The message remains the same. What we feel influences what we do, and repeated actions shape the life we build. So ask yourself, which emotions are helping you become the person you want to be? Chapter 12. The habit of taking action. How small choices shape your life. Many people believe that life changes because of one big moment, a major decision, an opportunity, or a lucky break. Sometimes that happens, but most lasting success is built through small actions repeated over time. One phone call, one workout, one page of a book, one small improvement. Napoleon Hill shows that success is not created by thoughts alone. Thoughts become decisions. Decisions become actions, and repeated actions become habits. Modern psychology agrees, the more we repeat a behavior, the more natural it becomes. Think about learning a new language. At first, every word takes effort. Months later, many things happen almost automatically, not because you changed overnight, but because you practiced consistently. Imagine two people who want to improve their health. One waits for the perfect time to start, the other begins with just 10 minutes of exercise each day. A year later, the difference is clear, not because one person had more talent, but because they built a habit. Small actions may seem insignificant today, but they create tomorrow's results. The same is true for negative habits. Small choices repeated every day can slowly move us away from our goals, or closer to them. Try this exercise. Choose one area of your life you want to improve. Then ask yourself, what is one small action I can repeat every day? Success rarely comes from one extraordinary effort. It comes from consistent progress. Hill wrote about this nearly a century ago. Today, research on habits supports the same idea. What we repeat eventually shapes who we become. So ask yourself, what small choices are you making today? And where will they lead you a year from now? Chapter 13. Beyond the book. What still matters? After almost a century, some books are read once and forgotten. Others stay with us for years, not because every idea is perfect, but because they make us think. Think and Grow Rich was written nearly a century ago. Since then, the world has changed dramatically. Technology, careers, and the way we live are all different. Yet, the biggest questions remain the same. How do we find purpose? How do we overcome doubt? How do we turn goals into action? Throughout this book, Napoleon Hill explored many ideas: clear goals, belief, knowledge, imagination, planning, persistence, cooperation, mindset, emotions, and habits. Together, they point to one simple message. Success is not built by one moment or one decision. It is built through consistent choices made over time. Modern life is unpredictable. We cannot control every opportunity or every obstacle, but we can always choose our next step. That may be the most valuable lesson Hill leaves us. Growth rarely happens before action. It happens because of action. Mistakes become experience, small efforts become skills, and repeated choices slowly shape the person we become. Take a moment and imagine yourself 1 year from now. Not perfect, not without challenges, but still moving forward. What would be different? What new skills would you have? What fears would no longer control you? Perhaps that future begins with one small decision today, because our future is not created by one extraordinary event. It is created by the thoughts we encourage, the actions we repeat, and the habits we build. As we finish this journey, one question remains: what is the one idea from this book that you will put into action today? Final thoughts. Think and Grow Rich, a book that outlived its time. Almost a century has passed since Think and Grow Rich was first published. Why do millions of people still read it today? Perhaps because the book is not really about money. It is about goals, belief, discipline, learning, and the choices that shape our lives. Throughout this journey, we explored Hill's key ideas: clear purpose, persistence, knowledge, imagination, action, habits, and the people we surround ourselves with. Some of Hill's claims should not be taken literally. Modern psychology shows that success depends on many factors, including skills, opportunity, environment, and support from others. Positive thinking alone is not enough, but one idea remains as relevant as ever. Action creates change. Thoughts influence decisions. Decisions become habits, and habits gradually shape the person we become. That may be Hill's greatest lesson. Success is not about waiting for the perfect moment. It is about taking the next step, learning, adapting, and continuing even when progress feels slow. Viewed through a modern lens, Think and Grow Rich is not a guarantee of wealth. It is an invitation to become more intentional about the way you think, learn, and act. As we reach the end of this book, one question remains. What is the one idea you will turn into action today? Because this is where the book ends and where your own journey truly begins. Thank you for joining us. If this book encouraged you to pause for even a few minutes and reflect on your own goals, decisions, and direction, then our journey has been worthwhile. After all, the true value of a great book isn't just in the information it gives us, but in the questions it leaves us with. This concludes our exploration of Think and Grow Rich, but it's only the beginning. In the episodes ahead, we'll continue exploring books that have shaped the thinking of millions of people around the world. We'll look beyond the author's ideas and examine them through a modern lens. What still works today? What has changed over time? Which ideas can we actually apply in everyday life? If you enjoy thoughtful book analyses that go beyond surface-level summaries, we'd love to have you with us. Subscribe so you don't miss our next journey through another great book. Before you go, leave yourself with one final question. What's one small idea from this book that you're ready to put into action today? Thank you for joining us. See you in the next book.